Hello. This is December 9th. Math class with Mr. Rijo. The math diary of 2014 going on 15 January. For those who didn't know. And yeah, here we go, boys and girls. And yeah.
Thanks, Marty. Okay, so we're in our stats unit, and we just had a little chat, but just to summarize what was said, we've looked at correlation coefficient to see how related two variables might be, all right? And now we're going to look at regression lines. So we're going to look at coming up with a way to describe those points. It's going to be a linear function. Thanks.
Sure. At the end of the video, we'll listen to my intro.
Sure.
Okay.
So it's going to be a linear function that we're going to use. Okay. And we're going to come up with a way to best predict the data that we've been given. Okay. So a regression line. First we'll talk about what is it, all right? So a regression line is a line that describes a set of data it's in the form that you're used to, y equals ax plus b. Nothing different there. And it allows us to make predictions for variables we do not have. And I told you that this is often in a much more complicated version, but this is stuff that people who use math to make a ton of money with. This is stuff that they do. If you get really good at creating these regression lines or these regressions, and you become really good at making predictions, and you can tell your boss a month in advance where your sales are going to be at, they're going to give you a whole bunch of money because you just saved them a whole bunch of money. Okay, so we're going to use these regression lines to make predictions, looking for variables that we do not have. Okay, we're going to use something that's called the Mayer line. So the Mayer line method. I'm going to write out the steps. Okay, I'm going to write out the steps for the Mayer line, and then we're going to do an example following those steps. All right. Oops, that's what I want. So Mayer line method. Oh, sorry, too high? So Mayer line, step 1. Order your points from low to high using the x coordinates. So you're going to take all of your points, you're going to put them in order from lowest to highest using the x coordinates. You're going to divide your points into two equal groups. If you have an odd number of points, your first half will have an extra. So if you had 15 points, you can have 8 in your first group and 7 in your second group. But as close as possible to dividing it in half. Step 3, calculate.
Just repeat it.
Yep.
Does it say your first half will have?
Yeah, the first half. So step 3, calculate the mean of your x's, your x and y for each group. Okay. That will give you 2 different points. We're going to call it P1, which will have an x1 and a y1 coordinate. And you'll have P2, which will have an x2 and a y2. Oops. x2 and a y2 coordinate. Okay. Let's move this now. Okay. So your x1 is going to be the average of all of the x's in your first group. Your y1 is going to be the average of all of the y's in your first group. x2 is going to be the average of all the x's in your second group. And y2 is going to be the average of all of the y's in your second group. Okay? So we've arranged our numbers from lowest to highest, split them into 2 groups, found the mean of your x1, y1, or your x's and your y's in both of your groups. And the last step is that your regression line
Or the final step.
is the line that passes through P1 and P2. You will find the rule, and then I'll put in brackets and graph if needed, because sometimes you're asked to graph, sometimes you're not. Find the rule and graph if needed that line. So you will do y equals ax plus b
Of that line?
of,
Find the rule of that line.
yeah. Find the rule of, yeah, there should be enough. Okay. So you're going to do y equals ax plus b for the line that passes through P1 and P2. So you'll use those 2 points to calculate your A, and then you're going to find your B. Okay. I want you to have these all written down. Are we good to go? Can I do an example?
Yeah.
Can I move
Not yet.
just about close?
Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions before I move up?
How many days till Christmas?
16.
I wonder if one phone call would get your dad to take your dirt bike away.
Alright, you're on YouTube. No, it's not. No, it's not. Alright, it's good.
You good?
Is it still recording?
Absolutely. Ooh. Okay, so example. I'm going to give you an example. It has 10 points in it. Alright, and they're already, step 1's already done. They're already arranged from lowest to highest by x's. So here we go. X, Y. So we have coming down here 6, 23. We have 7 and 26, 10 and 39, 13 and 44. 14 and 48. 15 and 55. 18 and 50. 19 and 65. 23 and 68. And 25 and 72. Okay, so like I said to you, step 1 is already done. I want to point out some things to you though. Okay, they are arranged from lowest to highest by x. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, good. You'll notice right here, okay, they're not from lowest to highest by y. That doesn't matter. Okay, you have a 55 that comes before 50. That's because the 55 is attached to 15 and the 50 is attached to 18. Okay, so arrange from lowest to highest by x. If you had two x's that were the same, you would put whichever one has the lowest y attached to it first, and then the higher y next. Okay, so that's how you tie break. There was no ties in this. But if you have any x's that are the same, the one that has the lowest y goes first, and then keep going. If you have 3 of them, you arrange them from lowest to highest by y's. If they have the same y, it doesn't matter. They're the same exact point. Just list them twice if there are 2 points of the same one. Is that okay? So step 1 is complete. Step 2 was divide this into 2 equal groups. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. So my 2 equal groups are going to be 5. So I'm going to have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to divide it right here. Good? Step 2, divide it into 5 equal groups. Divide it into 2 equal groups. In this case, they have 5 in each one. Step 3 was calculate the mean for your x and your y in each group. So I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to go x1 because it's my mean for my first group. It's going to equal 6 plus 7 plus 10 plus 13 plus 14 divided by 5. And if I do that calculation, I'm going to get 10. Just check and make sure I did it right though. Okay, so verify for me. My y1 is going to equal 23 plus 26 plus 39 plus 44 plus 48 divided by 5. And I think if you do that, you'll get 36 as your answer. I'm going to do x2 and y2. x2 is going to equal 15 plus 18 plus 19 plus 23 plus 25 divided by 5. And I think if you do that, you'll get 20 as your answer. Okay. And y2 is going to be 55 plus 50 plus 65 plus 68 plus 72. Divide all of those by 5. And I think you're going to get 62. Okay. I'd like you to verify those numbers for me. But I believe that's what they are. And so my P1 is going to be 1036, and my P2 is going to be 20 and 62. All right, so that is step number 3 completed. Alright, so we've ordered them from low to high, we've split them into two groups. Now we found the average of all of the x's in the first group was 10. Average of all of the y's in the first group was 36. Average of all the y's and the x's in the second group was 20. Average all the y's in the second group was 62. So the last step was your regression line is the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points. So we're going to find that now. I'm just going to shrink this down and move it over here because we have the points. It's all we need is the points. We can go a little bigger. Okay. So we've got our points, 10, 36, and 20, 62. So now let's do our calculation. So step 4, actually calculate the equation of the line. So we want to do y equals, I'll just write it up here, y equals ax plus b. Okay. So step 1, what's my first step in finding the equation of a line?
What?
How do I find the equation of a line?
Ax would be
Okay, good. What's the first step in ax plus b?
get the slope.
Find the slope, find a.
Do that, I haven't done this in so long.
I gotta plug in my x and my y
Yes,
to calculate my b.
exactly.
So I'm going to plug in the point 1036. You could use either or, but I'm going to use 1036. So x is 10, y is 36. So 36 equals 2.6 times 10 plus b. So 36 equals 2.6 times 10 is going to be 26 plus b. I subtract my 26 from both sides. That's gone. 10 equals b. So the rule for my regression line is y equals 2.6 x plus 10. That's my rule. Now, I'd like to show you what I mean by we use this to make predictions. Okay. So I'm going to ask 2 questions here. I'm going to ask 3 questions here. The first is, are there any questions about what I've done in this little section right here? So this is just back to y equals ax plus b. So it's same deal as what you've done before. It's just how you got the x and y that was different. Yes, Martin?
Did we learn y x plus b? Or y ax with him or with Scott?
Miss Scott in grade 9. You did
We did the conversion with general form to functional form.
With me.
Like that,
Yeah, so we have already done some work with it, but this is a grade 9 concept, y equals x plus b. It's just using it for a new reason. Okay. So we've got a formula. They wouldn't ask it necessarily this straight out, but here's what we can do. I can now say, question example number 1, if x equals 20, what would I expect my y to be? Right. If I look back at my table of values way back here, I don't have any x equals 20 in this little data thing. I can't just look at my table and say, oh, it would be equal to this. And even if they were asking me about something that was in this table, once you've found your regression line, you don't come back to the table. Right? You use your regression line. But if I look, there's no 20. Okay? I can say I would probably expect it to likely be around 65 to 68. There's some numbers that are attached to numbers that are similar to 20. All right? But I don't know exactly what it is. But I can now calculate it. Because I have my rule. So all I do is I take my rule that I've just made and I plug in 20. So y equals, in this case it's going to be 52 plus 10, y equals 62. That's great, works good. Okay. I can also go the other way.
So right there.
Yeah. So I could say, find x if y equals, I don't know, 26. So if y equals 26, what's my y? Or sorry, if y equals 26, what's my x? So I would again go back to my rule. Y equals 2.6 x plus 10. Okay, and I'm going to plug in 26. So 26 equals 2.6 x plus 10. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides first. 16 equals 2.6 x. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2.6. And x is not going to equal a nice number.
Oh my god.
Wait. 6.15.
Yeah, we'll call it 6.15. Okay. It doesn't have to be a nice number, and actually in this regression line stuff, it's not generally a nice number. Okay. What I would like you all to do at the end of your notes, I'm not going to do it up here because you all know how to graph. So the end of your notes is to do this. I would like you to graph all of these points on a piece of graph paper, preferably, or if you don't have a piece of graph paper, make a grid. So graph these points, graph your P1 and your P2, draw your line that goes through P1 and P2, and then write your regression line formula on the side. Okay, yes?
The line on, like, you're talking about P1, P2, is that
Yep.
line on the top of the graph? Like that, right?
It's going to go straight through those 2 points. Okay. So if you could graph this data set, graph P1 and P2. I often ask you to do P1 and P2 in a different color. Okay, so and then draw your line in a different color. Yeah, I will scroll down at the end. So graph the data, put P1 and P2 and draw your line through it.
Is that the homework?
No, that's the end of the notes.